Module 4. Hi, Joe Cerrone. Today we're going to take a look at Chapter 7, Object Snap and Object Snap Tracking. If we look at our learning objectives, we're going to take a look at the importance of accuracy in CAD drawings, knowing the function of the object snap modes, being able to recognize the snap marker symbols, be able to invoke object snap commands, be able to operate running object snap modes, know that you can toggle running object snap off to specify points not on an object, and be able to use Osnap tracking. Alrighty, so as we look at Chapter 7, Object Snap Tracking, it's used to make the drawings more accurate. And so CAD is so accurate that when you draw things, it's extremely accurate down to as many decimal points as you set up the units for. And so as we start to work with CAD and accuracy, we're going to look at using Object Snap to create drawings that are lines endpoint to endpoint, or that would snap to intersections, quadrants, tangencies, all these different geometric conditions for creating these different mechanical and architectural drawings. You'll get these little snap markers, these little triangles when you're at a midpoint. If we are to look at our Osnap drawing, we have a drawing that you can download as part of one of our drawing examples, and so you can download this Osnap drawing and open it, and we have this drawing of an Osnap enabled geometry. I'm not sure why I'm getting this little bubble here on view controls. So as we take a look at this, what we're going to do is we're going to create the different geometry that we see here. In our exercise. And so we have like a midpoint to a perpendicular point. And let me get the larger video for that. And so at oaktoncad.com I have some of our website, and I'm going to download the instructions here, and we'll take a look at that, and I'll post this in D2L as well. Sorry about the little bit of the fuzziness. We're going to go from the center perpendicular for our first line. And so as we take a look at this, we have our object snaps located right here, and this is the Osnap button that we can look at our object snap settings. And we have these different Osnap settings, and this is from the drafting settings where you can go snap and grid, polar tracking, object snap. And whatever is enabled will then, when we're in a draw command, give us a glyph. And so when we're near an endpoint, we'll get a little square. When we're near a midpoint, we'll get a triangle, provided that that's checked off. And so we're going to leave object snap enabled, F3, and object snap tracking enabled, F11. And then for this first one, we're going to go from the center point perpendicular. And so if we wanted to, we can go to the object snap settings and clear them all off, and just put center point and perpendicular, and then OK it. And then when we draw a line, we're going to draw on this hidden line layer. I'm going to make that a little bit darker. Rather than yellow, let's go with this shade of red. And I'm going to draw a line. And you'll notice that when I glide over the geometry, I'll get a glyph for the center. And so I'll click and it will attach. And then when I glide over the geometry at a point that's perpendicular, I'll get the glyph for that, and I'll click there. And then I'll just hit escape, and that's our first object snap from the center to the perpendicular point. And then if we look at our next one, we'll go tangent and midpoint. And so when we go with tangency, what we'll do is we'll start with the midpoint and then we'll bring it to the tangency point. And so again, we can go to our object snap settings and clear them all off, and then we can put midpoint, and then we can put on tangency, and we can OK that. Now you can leave them all on and be running with that. I'm just enabling a couple of them so that we have less options to choose from. And so when we glide over in the line command, it'll attach to the midpoint when we click, and then when we glide over to the arc, it will let us know when we're at that tangency point, and we can then click and hit escape. Alrighty. So the next one's going to be endpoint, tangent, quadrant, and intersection. And on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to use the right mouse button, shift and the right mouse button, to enable those. Now we can certainly come in here and we could enable some of these other Osnaps, but rather than to do that, we're going to just leave it set up with midpoint and tangent, and we'll acquire our Osnaps by holding the shift and the right mouse click, and then we'll check endpoint, and then when we come here we'll get the endpoint, shift right mouse click, tangent, and then as we glide over to that point we'll get the tangency glyph, shift right mouse click, quadrant, here's our quadrant, shift right mouse click, intersection, and then escape. And so that's creating that geometry. And then the other ones are fairly straightforward. We're going to set this one up for tangent and this one for tangent. The apparent intersections is a little bit tricky. You actually have to acquire and glide these, and we'll do that next after our tangency. So for our tangency, we're going to come back here to our Osnap settings. And I'm just going to clear them all off except for tangent. I'm going to say OK. I'm going to say line, and then I'm just going to glide over here, tangent and tangent, escape, right mouse click, repeat the line command, tangent, tangent, escape, repeat the line command, tangent, tangent, escape, right click, repeat the line command, escape. Alright, so to create this next geometry, what we're going to do is we're going to use the apparent intersection command. And to do that, you need to set this up with endpoints and intersections, and then what we do is we acquire these points, and as we glide, we'll track to the point that would be where the apparent intersection would be. So the apparent intersection would be where these 2 points, if they were extended, would meet, and the apparent intersection would be where these 2 points or these 2 lines would meet at a point. And so to create that, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our Osnaps, and we're going to turn on endpoint, and we're going to have extension on in apparent intersection. We can get rid of tangent, we don't necessarily need that. And so we have endpoint, extension, and apparent intersection enabled, and we'll say OK. And then we'll go to our line command, and then what we do is we acquire, and then we kind of glide that out, and you can see how it tracks until it gets to the apparent intersection, and then we click. Same with this point. We glide that out, hover, acquire, and that's how we would work with apparent intersections. It's a little tricky, but it's really a very efficient technique. Alright, tangent, tangent, tangent. This would be a 3-point circle that we would choose, and we would enable tangent. And so if we come back here to our Osnaps, we can clear them all off and go with tangent and OK. And then when we go with circle, we'll go with a 3-point circle, and we'll say tangent, tangent, and tangent. and that gives us our 3-point circle. And then lastly, we'll set up midpoint and go midpoint to midpoint to midpoint. Midpoint, 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 midpoint. Alrighty, we'll save the file with our initials. And we'll name it Osnap. I'm just going to leave it in my downloads. I'll save that. And then we'll take that file and we'll turn in the drawing file to the D2L course shell. And so to do that, what we'll do is we'll come back to our D2L. And in our D2L, we have the assignments folder. And I'm going to work on this as a student. Assignments, Module 4. Here's how we'll be graded. Add a file, my computer, upload. Here's my Osnap file. Add it and submit it, and it will give you a little bubble that tells you that you've submitted that file. Alrighty, so that's the first exercise in Module 4. The second exercise will be a polyline drawing. And so our second drawing will be this polyline drawing, and I'll create a video for that. This ends the video on Osnap.